You know, I have to admit something before we even start.
Oh.
I walked into the studio today carrying this specific weight. It's not panic exactly. It's more like a low-grade hum in the chest, a tightness.
I know that feeling.
And it started this morning when I sat down at my desk and just stared at those little red dots on my screen.
The notification?
The notifications, the unread messages, the software updates.
Yeah.
It felt like the world had already sprinted 3 miles down the road and I was still sitting there trying to tie my shoes.
Right.
And the feeling wasn't just, I have a lot to do. It was deeper. It was this sensation of lateness, that I'm fundamentally behind.
You know, it's fascinating you use that word behind.
How so?
Because behind implies a geometry. It implies a line, a race, and that you know where the finish line is.
I guess I do think of it that way.
But what you're describing is something we found all over the research for this deep dive. It isn't just a personal quirk. It's a universal modern sorrow.
A sorrow. That feels heavy. I usually just call it bad time management, or I tell myself I'm just disorganized.
And that's how we're trained to frame it. We think, if I just get a better plan or if I just wake up earlier, I'll catch up.
Right, if I just optimize my routine.
Exactly. But looking at the stack of sources we have today, from people like Eric Fromm to philosophers like Byung-Chul Han, this isn't about time management.
It's about something else.
It's about that sensation that everyone else is moving faster, that we are out of sync, and that we're failing to become the people we were supposed to be.
So, just to be clear for you listening, today isn't about 5 tips to clear your inbox.
Right.
We aren't going to fix your schedule.
Absolutely not. Today's about dismantling the clock.
Uh-huh.
We're going to look at why we feel like we're losing a race we never explicitly signed up for.
To just witness the feeling, not cure it.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's start with that disconnect I felt looking at the screen. One of the articles we pulled gave a specific name to this tension. It distinguished between machine time and human time.
Right. This is critical to understanding that nausea you felt. Machine time is designed for infinite speed, infinite throughput, a computer processor. It's linear. It doesn't need to sleep.
It doesn't get seasonal depression.
An algorithm doesn't have a mood. It just goes forward faster and faster, processing data.
Whereas human time is messy.
It's cyclical. It's biological. We're designed for seasons, for effort and rest, for waking and sleeping. We operate on a rhythm.
And machines operate on a frequency.
You got it. Think about it. Nature has winters. It has times when nothing blooms. The machine has no winter. The internet is always in spring, always producing.
But we've hooked our biological rhythm up to the machine frequency. We carry the machine in our pocket.
We do. And the source makes a great point. When you try to live on machine time, you experience technostress.
That sounds like a buzzword, but...
It does, but the research defines it as a physiological state where the brain remains on high alert, unable to power down.
So you're trying to sync your body with the digital world, a cyclical system with a linear one.
And it's an accelerating one at that.
That explains that quote from the student in the research. He said, "I'm tired before the day even starts." It's not just lack of sleep, it's structural.
Precisely. You are mismatched. The psychological cost of that mismatch is the feeling of being behind.
It's not that I'm slow.
It's that the race is impossible. You are a biological entity trying to keep pace with a digital flow that is, by definition, faster than you. You're a heart beating against a microchip.
And it seems like AI is just pouring gasoline on that fire. We saw this term pop up, FOBO. I know FOMO, but this is different.
Yes, FOBO, fear of becoming obsolete.
So FOMO is social fear of missing the party.
And FOBO is existential. It's the specific fear that the skills you spend a lifetime building, your writing, your analysis, even your ability to create art, are being outpaced by AI.
It adds this layer of, why bother? There was a source that mentioned a double force of anxiety here, existential dread mixed with imposter syndrome. Like, not only am I slow, but the machine is doing my job better and faster while I sleep. It makes the effort feel futile.
And that why bother? That's the gateway to the work of the philosopher Byung-Chul Han.
Right, the burnout society.
His whole argument is that we've gone through this massive societal shift that explains why we feel this pressure internally, not just from a boss.
This was the shift from a disciplinary society to an achievement society. And I want to unpack this because on the surface, achievement society sounds good.
It does, doesn't it? It sounds like success.
Yeah.
So imagine the old world, maybe the 19th or early 20th century. That was a disciplinary society. You had a boss or the state or the church telling you what you could not do.
It was a world of no.
A world of should. You were a subject. The boundaries are clear.
Okay. Rules, prohibitions, don't do this or you'll be punished.
But now, Han says, we live in an achievement society. The modal verb is changed from should to can. The slogan of our time is, yes, we can.
Just do it. Nothing is impossible.
Exactly. Which sounds like freedom. It sounds like agency.
It sounds like the American dream on steroids.
It feels like freedom. But here is the trap, and this is really the core insight. If nothing is impossible, then if you fail, or if you rest, or if you aren't constantly optimizing.
The only person to blame is yourself?
Yes.
Oof, that lands hard.
Think about it. In a disciplinary society, the exploiter was your boss. You could hate your boss. The enemy was external.
You could unionize against the boss.
But in an achievement society, you become your own exploiter. You are both the master and the slave. You drive yourself harder than any boss ever could because you're doing it in the name of self-actualization.
That's the concept of self-exploitation. We aren't being whipped by a foreman. We're whipping ourselves with our own to-do list.
With our own potential, yes. And Han says this leads to a specific kind of depression. The complaint of the depressed person today isn't, I am not allowed to do this.
It's nothing is possible.
And that feeling comes because we've burned out on the idea that everything is possible. We are waging a war against ourselves, and we are losing.
There is a really haunting phrase in that text about the nature of this tiredness. It described it as divisive tiredness.
Solitary tiredness. That stuck with me, too. Think about it. You might have physically exhausted people working together in a field. They share a tiredness. It binds them.
They can look at each other and say, we did this.
But the tiredness of the achievement society isolates us.
Because my burnout is my personal failure.
Exactly. It strikes you mute. My tiredness is over here, yours is over there, and we can't connect through it because we're too busy trying to hide it, to keep performing.
If I admit I'm tired, I admit I'm not crushing it.
And while we're isolated in that tiredness, we're looking at everyone else to see if they're tired too. But they don't look tired.
They look great. Productive, which brings us to the thief of joy comparison.
Right. And this is where the sociologist David Reisman comes in. He talks about the shift from being inner-directed to outer-directed.
He used the analogy of the gyroscope versus the radar. I love this visual.
It's so powerful. An inner-directed person, think of your grandfather maybe, has a gyroscope inside them, a set of values implanted early in life.
So they go through life steady, balancing themselves regardless of what the neighbors are doing.
They know who they are, but the modern person.
We are outer directed.
We have a radar. We are constantly pinging the environment, scanning.
Am I fitting in? Am I falling behind? What are the others doing?
We navigate not by where we want to go, but by where everyone else is standing.
And today, that radar is Instagram. It's LinkedIn. The signal is constant.
And because we are constantly scanning, we run into what the art and fear authors call the Salieri complex.
Poor Salieri. Everyone remembers him as the guy who hated Mozart.
But the tragedy of Salieri isn't that he wasn't talented. It's that he had just enough talent to recognize genius, but not enough to achieve it.
It's the fear of ordinariness.
The fear that we are just average. And in a world that demands we all be exceptional and brands, being average feels like a death sentence.
I related so much to the story in Quiet Susan Cain's book about the woman who felt guilty for staying home and reading a book. She felt like she was failing at life because she wasn't out networking or being effervescent. She felt guilty for being quiet.
That's the culture of personality at work. We feel we need to be performing our lives, not just living them. Eric Fromm goes even deeper. He says the deepest human need is to overcome separation.
We're terrified of being alone, so we conform.
We conform. We become 9-to-5ers. We consume the same media because being different means being separate, and being separate feels like being helpless.
So we check the radar to make sure we're still part of the herd.
And if the herd is running, we run, even if we don't know where they're going.
But the radar lies. That's the problem. We're scanning everyone else's highlight reels.
Yeah.
I want to talk about that section on the unlived life.
Okay.
Because this is where the feeling of falling behind stops being about productivity and starts being about regret. It gets quiet here.
There was that powerful moment from Lori Gottlieb's memoir. Maybe you should talk to someone.
Yeah. She describes a moment where a character just realizes, half my life is over. It hits her like a physical blow, the shock of a deadline. It's just looking at the math.
And we usually try to outrun that deadline. We engage in what the sources call the speed of want.
What's that?
We rush through the present, thinking we're saving time for some future happiness. But as Frum points out, we don't know what to do with the time we save except kill it.
That's a brutal paradox. We rush to get home from work using all this tech to save time, ordering food on an app to save time.
So we could do what?
Scroll on our phones.
Exactly. We are killing time because living in time, really inhabiting the moment, reminds us that it's passing. If you sit quietly, you hear the clock ticking, you feel the mortality.
So we distract ourselves.
We numb it out. And there's that dangerous habit mentioned in the therapy sources, Google stalking, an ex-partner or a successful peer.
I think everyone has done this at 2 in the morning.
And it's such a profound insight from the literature. When you stalk an ex online, you are watching their future unfold. But you are remaining frozen in your own past.
You're looking at a life that ran parallel to yours and thinking, that was supposed to be mine. It paralyzes you.
You become a ghost haunting your own history.
Which connects to the bucket list. I mean, I always thought bucket lists were a good thing, carpe diem.
Live life to the fullest.
Yeah, but the source suggested they're actually a form of denial. Can you explain that?
It's counterintuitive, isn't it? We think a long bucket list means we love life. But the source argues that a long list is often a way of pretending we have infinite time.
I'll go to Paris, then I'll learn to surf, then I'll write a novel.
Then I'll climb Everest. The longer the list, the more we can push death away. It's a buffer.
So shortening the list is better.
It's more honest. Cutting the list down, admitting I will never learn to surf and that is okay, forces you to face the reality that you can't do everything. It forces you to choose what actually matters now.
To live a finite life, rather than fantasizing about an infinite one.
And that leads to the Italy versus Holland metaphor.
This broke my heart a little bit.
It's a classic essay. The metaphor applies to any life that didn't go to plan. You bought the guidebooks for Italy. You learned a few phrases of Italian.
You had a vision of the Colosseum.
You packed your bags for the Mediterranean sun. You board the plane, and you land in Holland.
And Holland is flat and slow, and it's not where you're supposed to be. It's not the dream.
But there are tulips in Holland, and Rembrandts, and windmills. The point is, if you spend your whole life grieving that you didn't get to Italy,
that you didn't get the Mozart talent or the perfect marriage,
you will never be free to enjoy the tulips in Holland.
Yeah.
You have to grieve the unlived life to actually live the one you have.
But that grieving is hard. It feels like giving up. And we have this internal voice that hates giving up. We have this shadow.
Jung. We can't do a deep dive on the mind without Carl Jung.
We really can't. The source talks about the part of us we're ashamed of, the part that isn't optimizing, the part that just wants to sit on the couch and stare at the wall.
The part that isn't special.
Yes.
Jung calls this the shadow. It's the bag of unlit little sins we drag behind us. Laziness, messiness, envy. We hide it because we think it makes us unlovable.
We think if people saw our shadow, they'd reject us.
But the more we hide it, the more split we become.
I loved the reframing of this in Quiet regarding the slow animals. It feels like a permission slip for that shadow side.
This is such a gentle perspective shift. It asks us to imagine a party.
Okay.
And at this party, there are fast animals and slow animals. The fast animals are loud, charismatic, taking up space. They're winning the party.
Those are the people on the radar.
Exactly. But the slow animals, the introverts, the observers, the ones in the corner, they are the ones noticing the things the others miss. They are the artists, the empaths.
They're seeing the nuance that speed blurs out.
And to bring it back to the beginning, in the context of AI and machines, that slowness is suddenly our most valuable asset.
It really is.
And this is the irony of our time. Machines are fast. They will always win the speed race. They will always process data faster than you. But human uniqueness, as the sources discuss, lies in empathy, in creativity.
And the ability to cope meaningfully.
And those are slow processes. You cannot rush empathy. You cannot optimize a meaningful conversation. You cannot automate care.
So if we are feeling behind, maybe it's because we are measuring ourselves against the wrong clock.
We're measuring our human uniqueness against machine throughput.
We're trying to run a marathon at the speed of a microprocessor, and we are wondering why our chests hurt.
Why we feel breathless.
There was a beautiful thought in the notes about the middle of life. When we are young, we want a resolution, the movie ending.
And they lived happily ever after.
Right. But maturity, true maturity, is realizing that the middle is the resolution.
Living with the things that don't get worked out. Living with the fact that you are in Holland, not Italy, and deciding to buy a bicycle anyway.
Making peace with the incomplete.
Mm.
So, for the person listening right now, the person who, like me, felt that weight looking at their screen this morning, we promised no 5 tips, no hacks,
No,
but where do we leave them?
no tips. But perhaps a shift in perspective. If you feel behind, pause and ask yourself, who is setting the pace? Is it your own internal gyroscope?
Or is it the radar scanning a machine-driven world? It's about recognizing that the isolated I, that exhausted self, is a product of a system that wants you to be at war with yourself.
It wants you to feel insufficient so you keep producing. And realizing that you are a slow animal, and that is not an insult, it's a biological necessity.
It is the only way to actually be human.
To be slow is to be present.
I think we should end with that quote from Rainer Maria Rilke. It was in Letters to a Young Poet. It feels like the perfect antidote.
It is. He writes about the wish for life to belong to the grown-ups, to be settled and easy. But he says, I can see that it now longs to move on from them,
That is why it does not cease to be difficult.
but also why it will not cease to grow.
Life is difficult because it is growing.
And not because you are failing, not because you are behind, but because you are growing.
Thank you for stopping to listen to this deep dive. We hope it gave you a moment of human time in a machine time day.
Take care.